Any piece I teach begins with a discussion of the rhythm. Any piece I study for myself begins with looking at the rhythm. If you have the rhythm steady, if you have the rhythm correct, the notes feel consistent every time, and that sense of pulse is really intrinsic to everything we do in music. It makes you feel more secure anytime when you play. So the rhythm is the most important thing. In fact, what I think is the most difficult thing about the rhythm in the first line is the tempo. The tempo is a little slower than we want it to be, and with all of these ties and eighth notes, we're just going to want to rush it. So I turn on the metronome every time. Then, when I practice, I often tongue everything and leave out all the ties. I'm going to practice measure 3 and 4, which are the first two measures that have ties. Actually, I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to land on the downbeat of measure 5 because that feels better. Then I feel strong on a beat. I know where I am. If I have the metronome, then I land with the metronome. It feels better. Then I'll add the slurs. The next time I'll leave the slurs out, I'll put the ties in. The next time I'm going to do everything. Any place that there are ties in this piece, that's how I would practice them. Another issue that I see in this testing piece are the mixed rhythms. For example, in bar 8 through 15, you have eighth note, 16ths, dotted 16th, 32nd. Triplets, 16th note triplets, and dotted 8th, 16th. This is a huge variety of rhythms. Let me remind you what that sounds like with the metronome running. Starting at measure 8 is not the most musical place, but I'm using it for a demonstration. So, similar to the work in the ties, I often practice all tongued here. So, for example, measure 13 might sound like this. Landing on the downbeat of 14, of course. You want to be sure that your dotted 8 16th is exactly 3/4 1/4, not 2/3 1/3. So I'll subdivide 16ths with my tongue. If you want to take it further, you can tongue every 16th note value in the whole measure. Then you know exactly how you're counting. Notice that I'm doing these things slowly so that I can think while I play. I suggest it very highly. Another problem is measure 15. It has a 16th note triplet. How fast is that? Well, a 16th note triplet fits into an 8th note. If you play this, it's kind of hard to know where that feels. What if I just played the first of the triplet notes and then the low E? It would just be one and. I'm going to start half a measure before on the 3 Gs. I'm going to practice the crescendo as long as I'm here. Now that triplet fits into the 4th G, doesn't it? 'Cause 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 ' When you do it this way, it's really simple to know how that should feel. Rhythm is math, but rhythm is also a feeling. You need to know how it feels, and then you'll feel secure playing it. In measure 9, the dotted 16th to 32nd is a little bit daunting, but if you think of it first as all 16th notes, one E and a, two E and a, and then play it as very strong long short, and then make it separated in staccato. It's a good idea to put the metronome on eighth notes. So it's a little slow right now. 160 can be hard to feel and hear, but you're getting the idea of how the rhythm should be. So this is bar 32, the last quarter beat, the last 5 notes, except that the 4th and 5th notes are going to be represented by 1. Instead of this, that 1/16. When you feel comfortable with that, you just divide that last note. How fast it should be is very easy. Bar 36 has a tendency to want to be very short. It's a quarter note. After all of these subdivided rhythms, I would just subdivide it. I'm going to play from the 3rd beat of bar 35, and I'm going to subdivide out loud with my tonguing. Three E and a, 1 E and a, 2. If you rush the quarter note, you'll miss the artistic effect of slowing down. So make sure that you don't rush that quarter note. The other thing that everyone will be worried about is the 7/8 section. In the spirited section, the tempo is quarter note equals 156, which means that 8th note equals 312. I have a pretty fancy metronome, but it doesn't go up to 312. There is no way that I can practice that with the 8th note going 1 beat, 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 beat through the 7/8 on my metronome. However, there are 2 7/8 bars. So I can practice them, and the metronome ends up being half a beat off in the 2nd measure, but if I land correctly, if I'm doing it right, I land with the downbeat on the 2/4. I'm going to play very slowly at measure 41 and show you what I mean. I'm at bar 41, and the metronome is on the 8th note. 1/8 note gets 1 beat. Now, the metronome is on the quarter note. You can hear that the accents don't fit with the metronome, but that the beginning of bar 41 and the beginning of bar 43 fit with the metronome.